Hi all, my name is Erica, aka ECR Horses 1901, and today we're going to talk about the 2025 Breyerfest models. So last year when I did this video, my subtitle was literally yikes. And luckily that will not be the case this year. In hindsight, that may have been a little harsh because there's really only one model I can think of from 2024 that I outright did not like. At the same time, I can honestly say that the majority of models that I picked up from last year's Breyerfest have mostly been packed away since then. I put a few of them into my show string, which granted was only for a single show to this point. And to be fair, all but one of them did get some kind of ribbon. And as another caveat, I should note that in the show, the ribbons went all the way to 10th place. So for all that, I would still not consider any of the Breyerfest specific models from last year to be amongst my favorite models in my collection. I hope that turns out a little bit differently this year, but I guess we'll see. With that, let's hop directly into talking about our celebration model, and that's Tight Lines, aka Fish, who is a 5-star eventing horse ridden by Will Coleman. When this model was first announced back in October of last year, there was quite a bit of kerfluffle about him. Some people were unhappy with the color, which they felt was too light when trying to represent this flea-bitten gray horse. Some people were unhappy that this is on the cigar mold, which is kind of an older mold, and granted it's not even a favorite of mine, but apparently what I have learned by reading a bunch of comments, and so hopefully this is correct. As usual, if it's not and you know that it's not, please correct me. But from what I have heard, the owner of the celebration horse is the person who is allowed to choose the mold that the horse will appear as. So if Will Coleman or people from the syndicate that own him thought that cigar was the most appropriate, who am I to judge? And yeah, I mean, maybe flea-bitten gray is not the most exciting color, but that's what the horse is. And given that that's the case, I don't really know that it's fair to make a fuss about it. Also, weren't there like 3 Bay celebration horses in a row? With Bravour, 54, Nicholas, Skip Danny, and then what was 2020 Ballino, Castle RM. All bays, so at least we got something different this year, and last year for that matter. All this to say that I think he's fine. I know there's some concern about this blanket potentially staining him, and hopefully that won't be the case, or it'll be packaged separately. But yeah, otherwise, I think he is fine for representing the horse that he is intended to be. Will he become a show horse for me? Probably not, but I'm not mad that he is what I am getting with my ticket. And if I was going to Breyerfest in person this year, I almost certainly would have waited in line to have him signed by Will Coleman because I do watch a fair amount of eventing. Let's move on to this year's event stablemates, and these are so much better than last year's. In 2024, we had the pastel filigree decorators with the very long song title names, and man, I kept one set just because, but I happily put my second set up for raffle at the show I attended after Breyerfest because I just did not need a second set around. I wouldn't have minded one decorator as part of this set, but I am definitely not going to complain because there isn't one. Who we do have to start is Bellini, who is a polo pony variation of the thoroughbred mold. I love everything about this little guy, including the detail of the blue and gold wraps in the tail for Breyer. Next is Mimosa on the Indian pony mold. She is a Palomino Tobiano Pinto, and she's okay. I'm not a huge fan of the Indian pony mold in any form, whether that's stablemate or traditional size, so that alone is a bit of a mark against this one. Third is Cava, a lovely, glossy dappled bay on the Cantering Andalusian mold. It's a Spanish horse, so you tell me if I like him. Hint, I do. I really appreciate a good glossy stablemate, and this bay color especially pops with that finish. Finally, we have Prosecco, who is a glossy black snowflake Appaloosa on the relatively new Playful Draft Stallion mold. To be honest, the vibes are off with this one. I didn't care for Augustus, and I don't really care for this guy either. I guess it's nice to have another draft type model that isn't just standing or walking, but this does not do it for me. If I had to put these guys in order of preference, it is easily Cava, the Bay Andalusian, then Bellini, the Polo Pony, Mimosa, the Indian Pony, and then Prosecco, the Draft. All in all though, a good set. I don't think I get any of these though automatically with an online ticket, and realizing that has made me kind of sad since I wrote this. So I will be looking for the first two, or at the very least for the Andalusian, on the secondhand market. Next we have the special runs, and Get This Party Started is up first. She is a black frame Overo Pinto on the Connemara mold, available to in-person attendees only. I remember when this horse was first revealed, I was like, okay, finally a horse I kinda like on this mold. But the more I've looked at it, the less it's grown on me. I mean, it's all kinda moot anyway, because this is an in-person only horse and I'm attending online this year. But yeah, a lot of my critique purely goes to this mold, which is just not a favorite of mine. Even if I could get this horse, it's a no for me. Meanwhile, in polar opposite land, we have Let the Good Times Roll, a sooty buckskin leopard Appaloosa on the show jumper mold, available to in-person and online traditional ticket holders. I love everything about this horse. I don't feel like we see a lot of loud leopard Appaloosa colorways, and so this is particularly striking. I also love the show jumper mold. I currently only have a Washington on it, and he's just... everything about him is fantastic. From the shade of the blue to the gloss to just absolutely everything. Therefore, this model is an absolute purchase for me. Next is Good Times and Great Friends, a dappled bay cantering Mustang mare and light chestnut Mustang foal, available to in-person attendees only. Meh. It's another special run I'm not sad is in person only. I have this pair as the Premier Club release, Tiger Lily and Firestorm, and I'm not gonna lie, they went down to the basement almost immediately after I unboxed them. It's not so much the molds, but more that I have yet to see a mold and colorway combination on them, both, that I really like. The mare does fare better here, in that she has that really juicy looking gloss on the bright bay, similar to Cava from the stablemate set, honestly. The foal though, I stand by my opinion that lighter colored coats tend to look better matte, and I definitely think that's the case here. Although honestly, even if this was a matte set, that light chestnut colorway is just not one that I'm super crazy about. This is another one that I clearly have to pass on because it's in person only, but I am okay with that. To the Ties That Bind Us, a Wedgwood blue blanket Appaloosa on the silver mold, available to in-person and online traditional ticket holders. And do we have Whiplash yet? Because we once again go from just okay to please send this model to me right now. This year's decorator is a continuation of this year's regular run series, which consists of a Western horse, a Lonesome Glory, and an Esprit mold with different colorways, accented with outlines of the various Breyer molds. This guy, however, has the spectacular and classic Wedgwood blue decorator coat, and I think the whole thing looks great. I was curious if there was anything more to their choice to use silver for this, but he is from 2001, which means he turns 24 this year, so I don't actually think there's any deeper meaning. He looks nice and is another model I am definitely ordering. Then we have Seize the Day, this year's surprise model, available to in-person and online traditional ticket holders. There are much more knowledgeable people making guesses about what this mold could be, so I recommend seeking out their videos, their social media posts, because I can't even venture a guess. All I know is that I will be getting one copy just to have. Last year was Emerson, the Standing Thoroughbred mold, which at the time felt a bit anticlimactic, but I'm also not a huge Thoroughbred mold fan, whereas if it was like the Peruvian Paso or something, I'd probably be the only person freaking out. Can you imagine if it was the Racehorse? I would love the chaotic energy of that. Come on, Breyer, let's do something nuts. Next is YOLO, a dapple gray on the Vanner mold, available to in-person attendees only. I feel awkward even saying YOLO in the year 2025, but that's another thing. Also, I know I am not the only person who started reading the blog entry that is attached to this, and expected a polo pony, right? Well, despite what it seemed like we were getting, this guy turned out to be a big old gypsy vanner. He's fine, but it's another mold I'm not crazy about. I've also heard that this mold does not show that well because of some kind of conformational wonkiness, so that's just another point off as far as I'm concerned. Hats Off to You is a Grulla Blanket Appaloosa on the Old Timer mold, available to in-person and online traditional ticket holders. Yes, yes, and so much yes. This Old Timer not only has lovely coloring, but also two different hats. There's the traditional one that you'd find on any old timer, the black with the silver band, but also a tiny party hat, and that is precious. I would love to see this be one of the models that has variations. I don't know what those could be, so again, please don't ask, but this horse, this combination can do no wrong. This is another to put in the absolutely must-purchase pile. Here we have Future is Bright, a Palomino on the Criollo mold, available to in-person and online traditional ticket holders. This horse is not bad, and if I were going in person so that both my husband and I had VIP tickets, although I don't honestly know if I'll be getting VIP tickets next time, that's a decision for next year. In any case, if that was what was happening this year, I might possibly get him. However, even with getting 2 online tickets, I am already maxed out for special runs, and this guy does not quite make the cut. Believe it or not, I think a big part of the reason, because yeah, I know it's a Spanish mold, and I actually really like the Palomino, but I feel like this dappling is a little much. A little fish scaly, I think they say. If that aspect was toned down a little bit, then this might have gone onto my purchase list. I do generally feel positive towards the new Criollo mold though, and I can't wait to see what they do with him next. Our final special run is Life's a Journey, a blue Merle Collie, available to in-person attendees only. This is the model that made me sad that I was not going to Breyerfest this year in person. The Lassie mold has not been used since 2016, and that was for a very limited 40-piece web special. So I was pretty thrilled that they brought him back for this year's Breyerfest, and I swear, when they first dropped this blog post, I absolutely swear that when I first read it, it said that it was available to both in-person and online ticket holders. Clearly that is not the case. I've double-checked a million times, because I remember thinking like, oh, well, at least I can still get him, but no, I can't. I'm not even a huge dog person, to be honest, but the colorway is just really nice, and along with the overall detail, and come on, the bandana. But alas, it is true that he is for in-person ticket holders only, so that's the end of that. Truly though, Breyer, more of this please, in the way of digging up some of these molds that haven't been used in a while and putting them back out. Start our limited editions. First up is Bellisema Sapphire, a chestnut on the Arabian Mare mold, available to all ticket holders. This horse is modeled after a real-life endurance horse, and my first impression was a pleasant one. I don't have a horse on this mold or any of its variations yet, and I think it's a fairly nice Arabian. Again, I have heard of this mold having some conformation issues though, so I probably won't purchase it, but we'll see. Second is Halcyona Nightlife, a dappled black colorway on the Welsh Cob mold, available to all ticket holders. Here we have a horse who is a champion Welsh in a variety of disciplines, in both Canada and the United States. While I think the real-life pony is quite adorable, here's just one of the pictures that they put up on the blog of him, I'm not really feeling this model. There is at least some dappling visible on the barrel, and other people have pointed out that there is a lot of detail in the eyes. Specifically, this one side is brown, but the horse's near side is partially blue and partially brown, which I'm going to suppose matches the real-life horse. I'm going to be honest though in that I don't care for this mold all that much. I know if you watched my video on the 2025 regular runs, I was quite taken with the new regular run that's on it this year, and I may very well get that model at some point. Hi. But this little guy is a pass for me. I don't have too much to say, Nart. Next is Game Day Surprise, a dark buckskin on the classic scale Hollywood Dunnett mold, available to all ticket holders. I just ranked this mold in my latest classic scale tier ranking video, and to refresh everyone's memory because it's been a few weeks, I actually gave this mold a B. The more I look at this model, the more I think I want to actually move that down a notch. It's a super appropriate mold for the horse, who is used for freestyle reining, but between the colorway, which is kinda just plain, and I don't, you know, I feel bad saying this because I know it's meant to look like what the horse actually wears while it's doing its freestyle reining events, but I don't care for this little, I don't even know what you would call it, collar that's on him. So yeah, I'm sorry, Game Day Surprise, but this is not for me. Bow and Arrow is a chestnut Overo Pinto on the loose mane Cleveland Bay mold, also available to all ticket holders. On the other hand, we have this gorgeous guy. He is a vaulting horse in real life, and I am in love with this model. Even though I really love the Cleveland Bay model, the mold rather, just all together, I have 0 models on it so far, so this may very well be my first. I love the colorway, I love the little details like the spots on his muzzle, and I would not be sad if he showed up in a glossy version, just putting that out there into the world. Then we have this year's Best of Breyerfest stablemate set available to all ticket holders. Last year, I also got 2 of the Best of Breyerfest sets, one to take apart and use models for shows, and one that, again, stayed in the box. I have to say, of the ones from last year's set, only one of them has done well for me show-wise. Again, it's just one show, that's my caveat. But that was a little bit disappointing. So I am pretty sure I'm just going to get one set this year because I don't know we have better options show-wise as part of this lineup. By themselves though, not taking showing right out of the equation, some of these models are quite nice. First, there is Revelry on the Smart Chicholina mold, a miniature version of the 2015 Volunteer model Parfait. We have Hullabaloo on the Standing Thoroughbred mold, meant as a miniature of the 2015 Early Bird model Sabon. There is Jubilation on the Norwegian Fjord Stallion mold. definitely my favorite of the bunch. He's a miniature version of the 2015 contest prize model Truffles. Fourth is Soiree on the stock horse Mare mold, who is a miniature of the 2015 Open Show overall champion prize model Creme de la Creme. And finally, there is Red Letter Day on the American Saddlebred mold, a miniature version of the 2015 Open Show Reserve Champion prize model Toot Sweet. Next is our online-only model, Hoopla, a Bay Tobiano Pinto on the Bristol mold. This is another must-have for me. Like with the Cleveland Bay mold, I love Bristol, but I don't have any on that mold yet. So hopefully he will be my first. He is online only, and I'm sure he's going to go quick, but I am going to try my best to get him. Finally, at least for regular models, we have this little guy, Shindig, a shaded gray Sabino on the Stablemate Scale Jorg mold. This is another one where the mold is okay both in Stablemate and traditional scale, and while I wouldn't be mad about having him, I am also not going to go out of my way to get a copy, and I really don't have more to say about him than that. This year's stuffed animal is Party Pal, available to all ticket holders. This is simply not my favorite style of Breyerfest plushie. I much prefer the ones that they used in 2022 with Strudel and Sulky. I got Strudel from the warehouse basket in the tent store last year, and I love that guy. He's definitely one of my favorite plushies that I own. There have been a few other cute ones over the years, like Mackenzie from 2020 Breyerfest, but unfortunately, this year's doesn't do it for me. He's a bit too cartoony, although I guess he does match the Palomine costume fairly well. I didn't actually run into Palomine last year either, so I'm sure people who have a stronger connection to the mascot will be more than jazzed to bring this guy home. Finally, could this be my most surprising want? Available to all ticket holders, it's Standing Ovation, this year's crystal piece on the American Saddlebred Stallion mold. I love this mold so much. If you've seen the movie Pearl, and I'm specifically thinking about the end of the audition scene, if you know, you know, where she's yelling, "I'm a star." Like, that's me, but yelling at my copy of Blue Note, because I love that model so much, and every Hamilton in the Saddlebred classes, be damned, because they don't hold a candle to him. At least I can still show him as a national show horse, and he has gotten a ribbon as such. Anyway, this could possibly be the only crystal model that I ever get, but I simply had no choice. He is perfect. And that's a wrap for this year's 2025 Breyerfest models. So again, all in all, I feel like it's a stronger field than what we were presented with last year. But I guess time will tell, especially once we have the models actually in hand. I'd love to know your thoughts about the 2025 Breyerfest models down in the comments, and I hope that if you enjoyed today's video, you will consider giving it a like, or perhaps even subscribing. That's all for me today. I think next time we will probably be returning for the third edition of the well, not third edition, for the third in the series of the tier ranking every classic scale model, aka mold. I mix those two terms up too often still. And if you're new here and don't know what I'm talking about, I'll be sure to put a link to the beginning of that series up here, so you can go ahead and take a look at what we do a lot of on this channel. That's enough for me for today, and I will see you next time.